Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Come on in to the ABCs of Finance moment. Happy Tuesday to you. My name is Mika McLendon, and I am the founder and CEO of Amazing Rare Rubies. We are so excited that you guys have decided to join us today as we talk a little bit more about becoming financially. With Amazing Rare Rubies, you know, we are a women's organization that's designed to encourage women to become the woman God created them to be. In the last 5 years of really walking out and doing this journey, what we have found is that there is a plethora of us struggling with our finances as we would do events and we would have awesome platforms for individuals to come in and join. We were finding that individuals were truly struggling with coming up with extra funds to pay for these events. And so God began to lay it on my heart, the importance of making sure we talk about financial literacy and how we can actually become more financially literacy and knowledgeable wise when it comes down to how we're using our money, where we're putting our money, understanding our money, and having a better relationship with it. I know most of us, when we were, brought up, we were definitely brought up to understand how to go get a job, to make money, and we knew how to pay bills. But what we really did not understand and learn was how to have a healthy relationship with our money. So a lot of us, although we made money, we were spending it as fast as it was coming in, and we ended up being in what we call a financial whirlwind. And in this financial whirlwind, I have found that basically it starts with us when we graduate high school. Why? Because we get that first piece of mail that says pre-approved and our name is on it, right? And we're so excited because here we are graduating from high school, getting our first piece of real mail. And that real mail begins to start a financial whirlwind for us. Right? Because we get that credit card, not really understanding what we're getting. We end up getting in debt, starting in debt, feeling like we're going to die in debt. And that's not what God intended for us. He intended for us to be in the land of milk and honey, to be the lenders, not the borrowers. But a lot of time we find ourselves in the position of being the borrower, right? So this particular ABCs of Finance moment is here to help us understand how to overcome that, right? This is a moment that's all about providing you with tips and nuggets that's going to enhance your financial literacy one step at a time. Now, with this, God gave us an acronym that we call LAMPS. The Amazing Rare Rubies calls this acronym LAMPS. And basically what this acronym shows us, in all honesty, is understanding that we need God to truly be a light for us. We need him to truly light the path for us so that we can truly understand how to walk out this particular journey of becoming financially. So let me walk through lamps with you. And these are the things that we have identified through God that shows to be a benefit of why individuals should take our ABCs of Finance class. So let's start with the L. The L is for literacy. We need knowledge, right? We need to gain the knowledge. We need the skills. But here's the thing. I'm a big believer that knowledge is not power. That's correct. Knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. Miles Monroe said one of the richest and wealthiest areas in the world is the graveyard. And that's because so many people pass with everything up here. So they had the knowledge, they had it all up here, but they didn't apply it. So if we're not applying that knowledge, that becomes an issue. Applied knowledge is power. Okay. So literacy, yes, we got to learn it. Yes, we need the skills, but we need to make sure that we can apply it as well. Then there's the A for accountability. We need to be good stewards over what God is trusting us with. Good steward does not mean I go to work and I make money and I pay my bills. That's not necessarily good steward. We have read the parables. We understand how should we be multiplying this? How should we make more with what he's trusting us with? And more doesn't always necessarily mean a dollar amount more, right? We could be planting a seed in someone that gives them some knowledge regarding finances, or we could be watering a seed that we've already planted that could help an individual on their journey to becoming, period. Now, finances is a big piece of that. Don't get me wrong, because money, you need it for the world to go round. We just have to make sure that we are being a good steward over ours and other gifts and talents and abilities that God is trusting us with. Then there's the management, right? Are we allocating our money appropriately, decision making wise? What are you doing with that? Are you putting it where it needs to go so that you can get a positive return on your investment? And then there's the P for planning. I love this one because it's all about, are we controlling our income, controlling our expenses, controlling our savings and our investments? Are we doing that? Right? And we're going to talk a bit about the P today, the planning today. Yes, we're going to get into that one a little bit more. And then there's the S for stability, which means do we have a solid financial foundation? Our finances should not be funny. Our money should not be funny. We need to make sure we have a solid financial foundation. And so this is what the acronym is for, lamps, right? Again, it's Psalms 119, 105, that God is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And we believe we need that light to help us as we move forward on our financial journey. Okay. So let's get to talking about simplified financial planning. That's what I want to talk about today. The key word here is simplified. We're not going to make this difficult. We're not going to make this hard where individuals aren't able to understand. I'm not going to use these big terms. Trust me, I don't even know half of the big terms, because when I make an effort to learn and enhance my own financial literacy, I'm looking to do it at a level that makes 1 + 1 = 2 to me, and that I can turn around and then hopefully share with others, give those tips and nuggets of what I have actually processed through my own how formula, right? Harvest the change with the open mindset and then work that change into your lifestyle. So when I harvest, I'm looking to harvest it at a level that I can go turn around and then share it, right? Because the big words doesn't make it better. The big words just make it sound like we have, a little bit more intelligence maybe, but I'm okay with just having the basics. I'm okay with having that and then being able to take that and grow it to the next level. And so many times I hear people say like things like, well, with the job, someone posted on Facebook about a week or so ago and was saying that working a 9 to 5 will never make you a millionaire. And I responded to that and I'm like, wrong. And I didn't say wrong like that because I didn't want to be disrespectful, right, to this person's post. But we have a mindset that tells us if we're working a 9 to 5, that we can't become millionaires or multimillionaires. Yes, we can. It's simple. It's not difficult. It's simple. It's having a healthy relationship with our money so that we can tell our money where to go. So that's how I approach this thing. I don't need to be an entrepreneur to make millions and millions of dollars. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people will be, and more power to you if you can make it work. I am not downing entrepreneurs. I used to be one. I own my own staffing agency where we put hundreds of people to work. So I get it. At the same time, there's a flip side to that when you get into entrepreneurship, you have to learn about, right? But it is possible. So let me make sure I make that clear. But with this, when I'm harvesting information, I want to keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid, not just for me, but for individuals that God allows me to share the information with. So again, we're going to talk simplified financial planning today. And what is that? What is financial planning, right? In a nutshell, it's a financial roadmap for your future. This is basically where you're going to identify your goals, you're going to write them down, and you're going to create a plan of action to bring them to fruition. That's what this is. You're going to identify your goals, you're going to write them down, and you're going to create a plan of action to bring them to fruition. So, with Amazing Rare Rubies, one of the main things we talk about after you pray, right? Because we believe in all this stuff that we're doing in life. We need to pray about it first, make sure that we're in alignment with what God has for us. That's important. We need to be in alignment with what does God have for me right now in my life? Am I where I need to be in my life during this time? Right? And am I on that path? So after we pray about this thing, our financial planning, after we pray about it, right, then what we need to do is the self-awareness piece that we talk about all the time. And this is where we have to evaluate where we are. At the end of the day, we have to own up to who we are, where we are, and what we did to contribute to the situation. You've heard me talk about that before, right? This is when we got to look in the mirror because the mirror reflects what it sees. And we have to be truthful to say, what did I do to contribute to where I am today? And is this where I really want to be? So when you talk about your financial goals, you've got to evaluate your situation. In that evaluation, you need to also understand your net worth. Now, you all have heard me talk about net worth more than once or twice. I know you have. If you have been even just joining the ABCs of Finance moment, you've heard me talk about net worth, which is your assets minus your liabilities. What's your net worth? Is it positive? Is it negative? You need to know that to be able to do your financial planning. And Habakkuk 2:2, you know, I love that scripture, right? Write the vision, make it plain, that you may run, right? So you can pursue it. You got to write it down, make it plain, be truthful. It is what it is at this point and this day. So after I own up to that, then I can begin to look at my financial planning. I can look at, where am I truly? And how does that align with where I want to go? Right? How does that align with where I want to go? So identify your goal. That's going to be really, really big. Write it down. Don't just jot it on a piece of paper and put it somewhere. Write the vision, make it plain. We talk about vision boards and things of that sort. Seriously, if you're going to do a vision board, don't just do something that you're going to post up somewhere and not pay attention to it. Write the vision, make it plain, so that now we can look at the how you're going to make that happen. Because now we have to understand, how are we going to bring this to fruition? What does that look like for us to bring it to fruition? Now, in setting your goals, you want to identify for yourself what needs to change, right? So you've done your self-awareness, you've evaluated where you are, but now understanding where you are and where you want to go, you need to identify what needs to change so you can set your goals properly. Don't go to a financial advisor and say, hey, I want to save, I want to get up to $100,000. Tell me how to do that. We've got to stop that approach on so many different things in our lives, even down to like buying a car. We walk into a dealership and instead of us really understanding how the car process works, what we're worried about is, can you take our monthly payment and make sure it's less than $450? Can I get a car for $450 a month? Because I can afford to pay that. What we don't do is look at that big picture to say, not only should I be able to afford to pay the car note, but can I afford the gas that it's going to take to drive this car, the insurance that it's going to take to drive this car, the maintenance that it's going to take to drive this car, the fees and the taxes that it's going to take to drive this car. Let's look at the whole picture. So when you're setting your goals and you're identifying what needs to change, you want to understand that picture before you go to a financial analyst or an advisor. You want to understand that picture first, not have them understand it for you. I'm hoping that's making sense to somebody there. These are small nuggets that we miss. Yes, those advisors are there to help you, but there's nothing like being educated yourself with the basic foundational information. And then when that financial analyst begins to speak, you can kind of go, okay, yeah, I'm kind of familiar with that. Oh yeah, I remember that. And so you can kind of connect some of those dots for yourself instead of them connecting for you and telling you, oh, you need a 2030 plan. You need a 2040 plan. You need a 2050 plan. And all we know is it's a retirement plan, but I really don't know much about that and what it does. We need to know more than that. So set your goals, right? And identify the things that need to change in that. Set those and understand what they are. And identify, what do I need to change in order to make this come to fruition? Okay, self-assessment first, and what you can do first before you go to an analyst or an advisor. The third thing is implement your strategies. So you've identified what you want to change. Now you need to implement your strategies, right? The way we implement our strategies is not just by writing them down, understanding I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's also by identifying what's been blocking me from doing 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I took that a little bit deeper. Because if you don't know what's been blocking you from your own personal becoming financially, if you don't understand what that blockage is, guess what? You're going to do it again. You're going to hit that wall and say, oh, this is too much for me. Oh, this is not. And you're going to back away. So you got to understand what's been blocking you. I call it fail. We all fail in our finances at some point in time. We fell down. Boop, hit the ground. The question is, why didn't we get back up? We didn't get back up because we truly didn't understand what was blocking us. I'll give you 4 things. I normally give this in my class, but I'm going to give this to you today. 4 things that normally cause our blockage when it comes down to becoming financial. The first thing is fear. The F is fear. We're fearful of the unknown. We'd rather stay inside of our comfort zone, right? It's easier. I know how to live paycheck to paycheck. I know how to rob Peter to pay Paul. I know how to get by. But what you're talking about, Mika, requires me to step outside of my comfort zone. I don't want to do that. That's called fear. And so fear will hold us back, and it will prevent us from prospering on things. Then there's embarrassment. Remember I said we fell down. F-E, embarrassment. We're embarrassed. We don't want people to really know our situation. I don't need them to know that, I'm running around with my name brand this and my name brand that. I'm looking good when I go here, when I step out with my girls. I'm dressed from head to toe. I got my hair done. I got my nails fixed. I got my toes polished, all that good stuff. They don't need to know that I have financial issues. So we live that, living like the Joneses lifestyle, because we're embarrassed. We don't want people to know. Then there's our lack of confidence. Oh my God. Whoo. Am I going to be able to learn all this? Am I going to be able to understand what I need to do to move this needle and move forward? People get really scared with that. So that confidence will keep them back, keep them in a shell. If I stay back here, I won't have to worry about my strategies. I won't have to worry about implementing. I was born in debt. I'm going to die in debt. I'm comfortable right here. I know this position. I know how to get through this. I know how to call auntie. I know how to call mom. I know how to call dad and ask them to borrow money. I'll pay you back when I get paid. I'm so used to that. That doesn't impact my confidence because I've seen it done for generations, and generations. It's a norm. And then there's the lack of knowledge. We don't know. And if I begin to get that knowledge, now I'm accountable for it. Do I really want to be accountable for knowing all this stuff? Remember I talked about applied knowledge is power? Not just having the knowledge. And when we get the knowledge, God expects us to use it. Yes, he does. He expects us to apply it. So when we fall down, when we fail in our finances, a lot of us stay down there because it's easier. It's easier. So in order for you to implement your strategies, you got to understand what's been blocking you all this time. What was it? What held you back? Was it fear, embarrassment, lack of confidence, or lack of knowledge? Identify what held you back. And when you identify what held you back, then you can remove that blockage. I know for me, a lot of it was what I was accustomed to seeing, right? And so mine fell in the bucket of fear. I thought, oh my God, what are people going to think if I start doing differently from what I've seen my entire life? What are people going to think? I'm fearful of what they might think of me. I had to let that go and walk in my own becoming. So when it comes down to you doing your financial planning and you getting ready to strategize, you've got to understand what's been blocking you first, so that when you strategize, right, those roadblocks don't hinder you. You already know I'm going to bump up against this. I already knew that was my blockage. You're ready to overcome that. And remember, courage only shows up in the face of fear. So it's not going to show up, right, if you don't have a challenge. Removing your blockage, that's going to be a challenge, but you can do that, right? So you want to implement your strategies. But again, understand what's been blocking you first. Now, the other thing I hear people talk about is, well, what about, I don't have the money to do that. I don't have the money to start my financial planning. And not, mind you, I'm not talking about financial investing. I'm just talking about planning so you can begin to save. People say, we don't have the money for that. Yes, you do. The average American spends anywhere between $500 to $1,400 on non-essentials every month. Did you hear that? $500 to $1,400 on non-essentials. What is that? That means things they don't need. That's what non-essential is. It's the stuff that we don't need. Check this out. The average household income is at $67,000. Average household income. So these are households that may be single, right? Or married. But the average household American income is about $67,000. It's a little, could be a little bit more, but we're going to stick with 67, right? $67,000. Now check this out. If you're making between $60,000 to $70,000, then your average tax bracket is going to be between like 22 to 25%. And that's not counting marginal. We're just going to keep this really basic, right? Because I said this is simplified planning. So let's say you're making 67,000, and I'm going to get my handy dandy calculator because you guys know I like to have my numbers right. So let's say you're making 67,000 a year, right? So 67,000 a year, and we're going to say your tax bracket is 23.5 because that's in between 22 and 25%. Okay, so we're going to say your taxes you're paying is 23.5%. So when I deduct your taxes are $15,745. When I deduct your taxes, this is what you're bringing home. $51,255. Okay, so let's just do simple math, and we're just going to take what you're bringing home and divide it by 12. So basically, you're bringing home $4,271 a month. Okay, I just did really simple math there. That's what you're bringing home. Now, the average American household spends $5,000 a month. Really, it's $5,111. But the average American household spends $5,000 a month. What does that tell you? We're overspending. And remember those non-essentials? And let's just say you're on the low end. You're spending $500 a month in non-essentials. You're on the low end. The money is there. Let me show you how simple the money can look. So let's just say, and one of the things I talk about, I do a comparison of being an author thing that I do in my class. And we talk about an individual saving $2,000 a year. So if you have your calculator, we're going to do a little handy dandy. $2,000 a year, and I have it written down, but $2,000 a year is basically like $167 a month savings to invest in yourself, to invest in your financial planning. $167 a month. Most people waste $500 a month. We're talking about $30, $40 a week. So how do we waste that? Small stuff. Starbucks, and whether it's Netflix or Prime or what, we easily can come up with $40 in a month. But did you know you can start there? Begin to be right where you are. That's what this is all about. So different ways to identify where your money is being placed and spent, because remember, part of this has been a good steward over your money, accountability, right? Track your money down. Look at a budget. There are different types of budgets based on where you are. Not one budget fits all, but get yourself on a budget. If you're not sure how, we break that down in our ABCs of Finance class. We talk about budgeting there. Pay down any debt that you have. We talk about the snowball effect and the avalanche effect of how to pay down your debt, right? Have an emergency fund. Now, this one is a big one. I've done segments on emergency funds and living expense funds. Get an emergency fund, because what happens when you begin to do your financial planning? Things happen like unexpected expenses, which is what your emergency fund is for, right? Inflation, that's a whole nother issue, right? As we're looking to save, we have to account for inflation, right? We have to account for that. If we're not accounting for that, trust me, we're going to find ourselves losing and behind the 8 ball. Check out this for inflation. For March 21st to March 2021, to March 2022, inflation went up like 8.5%. Does that make you go, my God? Yeah, that's why you go in the grocery store now. Chicken is a hot mess with the price, right? Last 12 months, huge inflation. But check this out. From 2011 to 2021, so now I'm giving you a 10-year range here. Inflation went from 3.2%, up to 4.7%. So that within itself tells you why it is important that you calculate inflation in your planning, because the unexpected can happen. With an emergency, I had a flat tire, or bigger emergencies, right? My air conditioning unit went out. I need an emergency fund and a living expense fund so that I'm ready for that. Inflation happens like it just happened. You need to be ready for that. Are you accounting for that? And then you got to think through that plan of where you want to invest your money if you're going to do investment, because when you're planning for savings, you need to make sure your debt is under control, your debt to income ratio is under control, you have your emergency fund, and you have your living expense fund. You need those things to happen first before you really start investing. But if you are at a point where you're ready to invest, then you need to make sure you're looking at things to say, what is the return on investment that I am looking for that fits into my financial plan that I just wrote out? What are those things that I am looking for? What return am I looking for? So that you can decide, do I need an aggressive investment plan, or do I need a moderate investment plan, or a conservative investment plan? And it depends upon where you are, right? To determine which one of those will actually work for you. So again, obstacles to think about. Plan for the unexpected. Make sure you have your emergency fund. Make sure you have a living expense fund. Plan for inflation. Inflation is going to happen. But when inflation happens, that doesn't mean you have to automatically take the raise or the bonus that you receive from work or from your entrepreneur efforts. It doesn't mean that you have to take that and automatically put it back into the economy because they said inflation. No, you make sure you understand inflation. But remember, you're in control of where your money goes. What do you mean by that, Mika? Example, inflation, milk went up. Nobody says that I have to go to the grocery store and buy a gallon of milk every 2 to 3 days, or every week, or every other week. I get to decide that. I get to look at alternatives. So you get to decide if you want your raise, your bonus to go into what they're saying inflation impacted. And I'm just using milk as an example. And yes, I know if you have children, you're going to need some milk. But then you might be able to look at some other areas. Don't just automatically hear the word inflation and think that every dime that you got a raise on or whatever, you have to put it towards that. That's not true. Stop living like that. That's how people in other areas, walks of life, are controlling your money. Inflation happens, yes, but you get to determine where your dollar goes. Remember that, okay? And then you want to thoroughly, if you're at an investment point, you want to thoroughly understand what you invest in, aggressive, moderate, or conservative, to say, what is the return on the investment that I need? When you start investing or you start saving late, guess what? You might have to be more aggressive than what you wanted to reach your goal. And that's why the sooner we begin to understand our financial plan and we begin to save and learn how to invest, the sooner we do that, the better. Because as we know, study wins the race. So if we can get on a course that's going to take us bit by bit to get us where we want to get, that's always the safest route to take. Fast money, yes, you can make. Look at Bitcoin. You can go up. And then guess what? It can do this. And your money's gone. Now, if you can afford to do that, go for it. If you can afford to manage it yourself, go for it. No wrong in that. You just have to be ready for it. Okay. So I want you to think about those particular things. So again, with financial planning, this is where you are identifying your goals. You're going to write them down and you're going to create a plan of action that's going to help you bring them to fruition. Now, rule of thumb I want to give you on this is that for your yearly savings, when you're talking about this financial planning, the actual rule of thumb is about 15%. Now, if you can't do that, don't beat yourself up. Begin to be right where you are. Start with 5%. Start with 10%. Can't do 5%. Start with 3%. Begin to be right where you are. The goal here is to start. Okay? The goal here is to start. Remember that. But if you can get to the rule of thumb, which is to say 15% of your yearly income every year, if you can do that, that's definitely going to get you to some financial stability, financial independence, and who knows, maybe financial freedom. because you can, especially if you can increase that, right? We can get there, okay? But begin to be right where you are. So before we go, I just want to let you know that our next ABCs of Finance class is going to be May 12th. It's at 7 p.m. It's a 4-part series, so it will end on June 2nd. It'll be every Thursday at 7 p.m. May 12th, May 19th, May 26th, I think June 2nd. It's a 2-hour course. It is a 2-hour course. If you would like to sign up, you can go to www.amazingrarerubies.com. Again, it's a 2-hour course per part. Let me clarify that. So on May 12th, we will be there from 7 to 9, and then May 19th, 7 to 9, so on and so forth, up through June 2nd, which will be the 4th part of the class. Again, this class is here to help us encourage individuals on their journey to becoming financially, and for us to enhance financial literacy one step at a time. So again, that class is going to be on May 12th at 7 p.m. You can sign up on our website, www.amazingrarerubies.com. As always, Amazing Rare Rubies, we pray that this information has been beneficial to you and helpful. We encourage you to always keep God in every decision made, every lesson learned. Yes, every lesson learned, and every message taught. And until next time, we want you to make it a Ruby day. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Thanks.
You are going to want to quit because you are human. But you've got to know that you must keep going.
Every decision made, lesson learned, and